Welcome, welcome. This is the Parent Code Workshop. So we are Sunshine Education Coalition. And with the Sunshine Education Coalition, we have provided this opportunity to have a virtual workshop. In the workshop, we are going to give parents the tools to acknowledge and advocate effectively for their children. So this is where we are tonight. And so tonight we're talking about navigating school meetings, and we're very, very pleased to have with us Mr. Wilson, Ovid Wilson. Am I pronouncing it correctly? The regional superintendent here in Hillsborough County. And we could also welcome Amy Marie, for Families for Strong Public Schools. My co-chair of the Sunshine Education Coalition is April Cobb. She is currently online, but I know she's busy as well, but she would definitely chime in because that's what she does. All right. So April Cobb and I, my name is Denise Papillon, by the way. April Cobb and I together have combined 50 years of educational experience. We have been in the Hillsborough County school system for many, many years. We have decades of worth of knowledge. We spent our time primarily in Title I schools, schools that we were told eventually were called alternative schools, career centers, and we pretty much work with that. That's our population, and our heart and soul is in the East Tampa area, as well as giving and pouring our love and all of our resources into caring for and uplifting our youth, especially our children of color. So we thank you again for joining us on this journey, and we're going to go forth and share with you. Again, our norms are just making sure that you know that to mute yourself as you are coming in, and here we go. Okay. One thing we want to throw out there as an icebreaker for you all is, what is one word that you would associate with a school meeting? And you're welcome to put this information into the chat, or I'm going to give my guests an opportunity to respond to that question. So what's one word that you associate with a school meeting? And you can feel free to pop in the chat or raise your hand. Hey, jump on in. I don't know if April wants to give us a response to that, or Bianca. I see some responses in the chat already. Amy, are you able to see that? Controversy, anxiety, really? Really? Mr. Wilson, what's one word you would associate with a school meeting?
I think opportunity. It's always a true opportunity. And with opportunities, just like any opportunities, you could take advantage of it, or you could not.
Okay, all right. I feel as well. I feel an opportunity for growth. I know from the parent perspective, I could agree with the anxiety. From the teacher perspective, that's also anxiety would definitely be a word I would also add as well. But also, your ultimate goal is to provide clarity. So I think when it comes to meetings, especially in the school setting, you want to be clear. You want that transparency. You want to know exactly what's going on. Okay. So yeah, we thank you all for your thing. Yeah, and Bianca says he likes your perspective on that. Exactly. I agree as well. Okay. So what we'd like to do right now at this point in time, we want to turn the floor over to you, Mr. Wilson, and introduce yourself again and tell us about the district's perspective on school meetings.
Sure. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to actually share a quick PowerPoint to kind of help guide a discussion. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right. So again, Ovid Wilson, my current position is Regional Superintendent for Region 5. I've been in the school district for about 23 years now. I've been fortunate to be an administrator in high school, middle school, K-8s, and elementary. So I have a continuum and an experience that spans the spectrum of grade bands. And so tonight, navigating conferences and disciplinary meetings, I think it's a great topic to be able to discuss, because one of the things that's important is, how do we equip, right? I always think about, if you think about four things, like you think about mindset, you think about skill set, you think about tool set, which will give you assets. right? And for parents, being able to approach a conference or a disciplinary meeting with the correct mindset, having the skill set that's needed to maneuver in that space, the tool set, and to gain the asset that's needed is truly, I think, what this presentation will do. So parent engagement and monitoring is in essence, one of the most important things a parent can do, right? It's one of those opportunities where a parent could get feedback loop, right? Because if you think about it, there is no system that improves without some feedback. You can't find it, right? And so the parent conference is that opportunity to gain that feedback so that you could improve the system of making sure that your child is getting what they need to get. Hillsborough County has two important softwares that I think is critical for parents to be aware of and have access to. One is new, and I must say it is definitely a product that has been needed. Because for me, I think about what's simple, right? Simplicity is always an opportunity for people to get things quickly and efficiently. And so the program Focus, that platform this year has definitely made that even simpler for parents. And then we have Canvas, where you could see assignments, grades, teacher feedback, and then Focus kind of helps you track attendance, report cards, disciplinary records, and more. As a matter of fact, if you have a middle schooler or even a high school, it'll let you know what period of the class your child is in, and it'll show you exactly where along the continuum of the day your child is sitting and where they are. So these are two tools that will definitely help parents in that respect. And that's part of that tool set aspect, right? Being able to utilize to see your child's grade and progress so that you could have real-time conversation about what's going on and what needs to happen for your child. Report cards and academic progress also is another aspect that is important. Those comes at the end of every 9 weeks, or progress reports typically within the middle of the 9 weeks, which is typically about 4.5 weeks. You'll have a progress report opportunity to see where your child is currently, how they're performing in the classroom, and whatever questions you may have to ask, so forth. Grading policies also is a part of that spectrum. For elementary through high school, you have an A through a F grading scale, etc. And so teacher parent conference, like, I think sometimes the mindset in which we go into this particular topic or a parent approach this particular situation will affect how they respond to the situation. So part of the encouragement with, stepping into a parent conference, I think is important that you discuss your child's strengths. You always start with positive, never lean to the negative first, because you want to gain those things that your child is doing well. Stay in the appreciation room and build that, perspective as a parent to see what things are going well, what areas are their strength points, because the reality is every child will have their strengths and their weaknesses, right? It's part of the learning process. Remember when we learned how to walk, you fell 1,000 times before you got it well, right? Same thing with learning. Certain things will come easy for children, certain things will not. And that's just the fact of the matter. As a matter of fact, for adults, it's the same thing. So, leaning towards the strength aspect and then the opportunities or challenges that your child may be facing. You think about questions that could be asked, and how is my child performing compared to other students in the grade band expectation, right? So that's a challenge you want to find out in comparison. How does my child approach challenging mistakes? Like, you think about the questions that you could really ask to gain your insight as a parent. Because remember, part of that is your feedback loop as a parent, right? Because there's things also at home that you're teaching your child that's also equipping them to be able to approach challenging opportunities. What are some of the strengths of my child in your classroom? Where does my child
Okay.
show the greatest potential? Then you're thinking about the opportunities of addressing assignments or lessons or behavior, right? And I think about behavior as patterns, right? Because patterns don't lie, people may do. But so what patterns are you seeing? one of the things I encourage parents to think about are what are the patterns you see at home, and are some of those patterns showing up in the classroom, right? Like kids, they're creatures of habits. And so you're looking at from a behavior standpoint, what are some patterns that the teacher or the school may be seeing that that are great habits, right? He gets to class on time, he's excited about learning, he does it at home, he's ready to pick up whatever, he helps out with whatever. Those patterns may show up the same way in the classroom. So you definitely want to ask about those kind of behaviors. Assignments, right? Is my child missing homework, right? Because sometimes, listen, as they get older, you and I know things may not come home to be signed, right? Or progress reports may be sent home and you may not get a chance to see it, right? And I know for some leaders, I know they send that parent link or a notification home to say, check your child's bag, because today progress reports are coming home. Why? Because as they get older, some kids may not bring those information home. So being aware of that, and that's why being connected to the Focus platform or the Canvas platform will help you to understand the alerts that are coming out and also to see your child's grades in real-time progress. Support resources, right? What are the things before school, after school, during school that can help if there's an area that you know that your child may need some additional attention on? What are some after school programs, right? I think this is an absolute wonderful opportunity for you to be able to tap into the resources of the school to build the skill set. And certain schools offer a array of things. So being able to ask the right questions around what supports systems are in place. For example, are there opportunities for enrichment for my child if they're doing well? So it's not just about if they're doing poorly. Keep that in mind too, right? Also, are there interventions in place for my child who may be struggling in a particular area? How do you measure progress beyond grades or test scores? How will we see updates on my child progress between conference, right? So these are a couple questions for you to be able to ask to get the pulse, right? And rhythm of support for your child. Denise, I saw you come off mute.
Yeah, yeah, I did. Hi, thank you. Because right along the lines of when you were talking about, okay, what additional supports, especially for your child. So, for example, like would think about we talked a couple of weeks ago about the IEP and the 504 plan. So, well, first of all, what's the difference between them, and how do you know what? And this is a question a parent would ask: how do you know which one applies to my child in particular? How do parents address that?
Yeah, one of the things, especially for parents, when you're looking at a 504 or IEP, individual education plan, right? Typically, the parents are at the table for that particular meeting. So being able to be refreshed in just in case a parent may not remember what has happened at that meeting, and being able to look at the 504 or what accommodations my child may have for particular things, i.e., testing, right? Does my child have extended time? So those are examples of making sure you're able to differentiate between the two. But especially one of the things I would encourage parents to do is to be able to arm yourself with the information. So if you're in an IEP, you got to know what your child's IEP is, right? Because that's helping you, and you're the one requesting for the additional resource and support to help. And then making sure that the teacher is aware that your child has that particular accommodation and resource. So
Right.
great question.
And I will jump on it also to say that a lot of times parents they let them lag a little bit, so it's very important that the IEP might have been current in 2012 or something like that, and it's lagged so long, but it needs to be updated and things like that. So thank you for that. But also, what about you have parents who are English is not their native language, so how do they? What kind of resources would be available to them for them coming to meetings with
Absolutely. So you think about a school or a setting where your child may might not speak English as a native language, right? There's typically ELL resource supports at the school. So being able to ask the teacher about that, so that your child is being supported with the language acquisition that they need, or any additional supports that could be afforded your child, whether it's through the paras coming in, ELL paras to help support, And this is a little bit different based on the level of schooling, whether it's high school, middle school, elementary. That level of support is a little bit different because you're looking at in elementary, especially the foundational years, you're trying to get phonemic awareness. You're trying to get phonemes into a child so that they could now transfer their knowledge. Because if they have knowledge in their and they're strong in their native language, it's not doesn't mean that they're not smart, right? So to transfer into an English setting, now they have to be able to get the tools, right, and the skills and the resources that are necessary to master the English language so that they could be fluent in a second language, so per se.
Correct.
So
April jumped on a little bit. I'm sorry, Amy as well. Go ahead.
I was so, we have students who are learning English but their families don't speak English. What resources do families have? Because obviously sometimes our teachers need support to communicate. What are the
absolutely.
what are kind of the opportunities there? I know we do have an English language learners workshop next week, but this obviously ties in here as well. So I thought,
Sure. The schools will typically have an ELL person on site, right? And because the reality, I've been at schools where I have had over 20 different languages. Let's just be real with it. And you think about that, right? I don't speak even three languages, much less 20. So the district does have resources where the ELL connects to a outside resource that can translate for you for any meetings that a parent may have. So that's an additional resources so that the parent could feel comfortable, right? And equipped to be able to ask the questions in their native language so that it could be transferred to English to get the appropriate answers that they may need. All right. So the last thing on this slide is to promote a collaborative problem solving. Uh, um, I want to say relationship. That's the best word to put with your teacher. Because listen, the reality is a parent sends their child to a school sometimes for 8+ hours. Okay. Whew. That's probably the most awake, like cognitive strong point of a child. And to be able to have a good relationship with someone at that school where you're entrusting your child is probably one of the greatest gifts you could have. Especially a teacher that will take care of your child and treat them in a way of respect and honor, and to give an honest part of making sure that your child gets a year plus worth of growth, right? Within their leadership in the classroom. I think is absolutely important. And just making sure that you promote a collaborative problem solving aspect is absolutely important. Understanding disciplinary meetings, right? So there's two sides of the equation. Sometimes when you think about schooling or having a meeting, your child may make a mistake, right? I think about mistakes in four different kind of ways. You got your aha mistakes. The light bulb goes off and Johnny just messed up, like, right? Like I remember sticking a fork into a toaster one time and that thing grabbed my hand and shook it. I didn't make that mistake again because I unplugged toasters after that one. That was a aha. It was a light bulb that went off, and I said, okay. Then you have your stretch mistakes. You're learning something new and you just messed up at it, or you just didn't know you're in a new environment. You didn't know and you messed up. It was a stretch. But then you have sloppy mistakes. Child just knows better. You have taught your child much better than what they went to school and did, right? And then you have your high stake mistakes. Like those are they're costly. Like that could really hurt somebody, right? Or create havoc on the campus. So even when arming parents with the different types of mistake, that mistakes aren't just simple. Like there are four types of mistake that they have. And then how do we maneuver? If my child does make one of these mistakes, how do I maneuver the space, right? So that I could understand better. The first thing is, hey, there is a student code of conduct, right? So as a parent, the first thing I would encourage is, hey, at least know what the code of conduct um, says about whatever the particular thing that is that you're experiencing. And then the second thing is arm yourself with the tool set of understanding the process, right? Because once you understand the process, you know how you're going to be able to maneuver through the system to be able to, because remember, at the end of the day, discipline at its core is to train, teach, right? And to instruct. So at the end of a disciplinary action, a child is supposed to come back, right? Grown from the opportunity that they had to learn from the mistake, right? So keep that in mind. Here are a couple things that I would just, start off by saying, hey, listen, I have seen where if you're not calm and you lose it, you might end up turning a situation that could have been turned into something really positive, and it could blow out of control. So I'll always say, hey, stay calm and gather your information, right? Here's the thing. I kid you not, having done this for a while, most times a parent has a vantage point. And if you only just stick to that one vantage point and you don't say, wait, let me just pause and say, man, there might be another side to this coin. Because it's not a one-sided coin. Let me just at least get the other side before I start asking the questions. Because what you don't want to do is go in with bad information that your child is scared and just didn't tell you everything. And then you're stepping into the meeting and you're going off, and then you're like, wait a minute. And you look at him or her and say, you didn't tell me that. And all of a sudden, it just looks bad. So I would say stay calm, gather your information so that you understand what you are stepping in, so that the next thing you could do is ask the right questions, right? Because it's important that you're asking the right questions, especially if you've gone to the code of conduct to arm yourself with the insights so that you could ask a proper question. Attend the meeting, explore supports, right? Because at the end of the day, the opportunity here is how do I grow my child, right? In character, right? Because if disruption or discipline is causing havoc, what that's going to do is pull away from the focus of learning, right? And so I always tell people, listen, if you think about this, discipline is the natural result of staying focused. So when a child is focused on their education, they have no time to fool around with misbehavior. It doesn't even make sense, right? So being able to say, all right, if this is the case that my child is not really focused at that moment on what they are supposed to be doing, how can we get the support to get she or him back to where he needs to be focused on the primary business of learning in school? Monitor behavior and academic progress, right? That's probably one of the biggest tools. If you stay on the academics, the behavior fall off. Stay on the academics, right? So how are you staying on what's the primary focus? Is it the academics? Because the child, what we pay attention to, we get more of. Or in other words, we put it this way sometimes. What is measured get moved, right? So what are we measuring? Like, Johnny, tell me about your reading today. Huh? He can't even tell you about disruption because you're asking about the primary source of what's happening in that classroom. So keep that in mind. And then lastly, understanding the policies and resources, knowing school policy, available resources that enables parents to respond in a constructive way. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is that your child is getting a quality education so that they could become a productive citizen. I think that's the last one. All right.
I mean, that was a wealth of information. And April, did you have anything you wanted to add real quick before I made a comment?
I'm just going to go ahead and tag that I'm going to copyright the new language on the T-shirt that says, because I think people forget all the time, and not only parents, sometimes the chief teachers forget it as well. The primary purpose for school is for what? Learning. That's it. The rest have no place, or it requires an appropriate time. And I think a lot of times we adults forget that sometimes, and also the children need to be reminded more often than necessary. But it is what it is. But that's good. That's mine. You gave it away, Mr. Wilson.
I absolutely agree. And I mean, it's just great. We had actually a scenario or two wanted to share with you, if you don't mind, and helping us figure out how does a parent navigate through this particular thing, right? So, for example, if and I'm gonna read it right off here. What if my What should I do if my child's teacher or school staff seems resistant to scheduling a meeting? All right, so there've been a bunch of problems before, and the parent might have had some, little shady language between the parent and the teacher, and the teacher is just saying, "No, look, I don't want to even want to have a meeting." What do you do at that point in time?
Absolutely. There's chain of command. So you follow the chain of command. You have an assistant principal, easiest way to get someone to respond quickly back to you, right? Then you have another chain of command above that. As a matter of fact, there are lower chains of commands. If it's an ESOL student and the ESC, there's always chains of commands. So finding the first chain of command to start with, and then following up the chain of command, I guarantee you someone will set a meeting if you follow that chain of command. Um,
Okay, all right, that's great. Thank you. That was an excellent answer for that. How do you parents will ask you, especially you have kids who are in all these different areas of the scale. Some kids are just like you mentioned, some are just a little bit of behavior problems. Others are it seems like you always in trouble all the time, right? When a parent asks you, how do I know if you're targeting my child? How do I know if your what is it? The discipline policies are applied fairly to my child? Um, would you then refer them back to again the code of conduct handbook?
Yes, as a matter of fact, one of the things that the district has done a good job and introduced this year is, believe it or not, a code of conduct for elementary. That
Mm,
now, like everybody got, because middle and high school have had that for years. You just follow the code of conduct, and it gives the recommendations on so forth, so that no one is coming up with gray areas, and there's opportunities for consistency across the district. However, one of the things I always say, patterns don't lie, people do, right?
mm,
And so I encourage parents to say, hey, what are you seeing at home? Right? Because most of the time, I kid you not, that behavior just didn't start. It's a
okay.
pattern, right? Especially if it's recurring. Then the next thing is, what are the things that you do at home that works? Because now, hey, I'm willing, because remember, it's a partnership. That's what we said, right? Establish
Mhm.
a relational partnership. And so if it's working at home, right? What do you see that's working at home? And then sometimes, certain behaviors, because the private child and the public child sometimes are different.
Yes.
You
Yes, they
understand what
are.
I mean?
Yes, they
Because
are.
you instill the values at home, and they dust that thing off when they get to school. So just being mindful of that. And I've heard parents say, "That's never my child," and then you see them. Are you sure that one's not yours? Oh yeah, Mr. Wilson, that's mine. Right.
Mhm.
So just being mindful of that sometimes it's not always that someone's trying to come for you, but to say, "Hey, this is the information. Look at the patterns, and let's work together." Because here's the thing. When you think about the grade bands, K through 5, 6 through 12, 6 through 8, 9 through 12, right? Those are different stages developmentally of a child.
Mhm.
Okay. It is easier for a tree you could correct it when it's young and tender. You could direct it to any direction. But as they get hardened and strong, it's hard to maneuver. So,
Maneuver.
those formative years are very critical in a child's life to help train, to help coach, and to help develop.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I am so interesting that you said that because I did recently have a conversation with a parent, and they were like the same thing. My child doesn't act like that. We have rules at home, and I try to explain very, very carefully that the social structure at school is different from home. I see, and I absolutely believe and agree that you have those rules at home. However, this child is among their peers, and their peers, that value system for your peers just outweighs whatever you've told them at the car. Because remember, again, to your point, they're with us 8-9 hours a day. So that
Absolutely.
they're away from their parents' influence for
Absolutely.
that long period of time. So and I stress to the parents, like, how many hours this child's away from you? They're not thinking about you.
Yeah.
So just remember that we got to work together to help influence and help to keep this child on the right track. So thank you for saying
Absolutely.
that as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a window where parental approval is not as important as their peer
Mm,
approval.
mhm,
And
mhm.
every child goes through that window.
And I
Yes,
think that window opens up so wide when they go from that middle about December in 6th grade
yes.
leading into the end of the school year for getting ready to go into the summer, something happens. They transition. I don't know if it's I can't even explain it, but like I said all the time, they're moldable when they first, and they're impressionable when they first arrive to 6th grade. But when they come back from Christmas break, something
Mhm.
happens. I don't know what it is.
A whole new
I don't know if
person.
it's because another year has accumulated in their on their ticker. I don't know what it is, but it's very interesting to see it every single year.
Yeah. Agreed.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you. And listen, thank you. We still have a few more things we'll talk about, but I just so appreciate hearing from you and the information that you shared with us. And I'm very excited about getting this information out to parents, because it's so important that they understand, especially knowing that start with the code of conduct. I think for me, as a classroom teacher, is going back to be able to explain to them that, hey, you know what? Let's start with the code of conduct. Let's look at the behaviors. Let's understand that there are rules, established rules for the for your child, and those are important for us to be able to work well in the class, because the goal again is their child's education. And up on the screen, what we have, thank you, Amy, we have some resources. And definitely want parents to go ahead and take pictures of those, or click on the resources. We have tips for IEP meetings, tips for parent-teacher conferences. We definitely want to share this information that we had, that you've given us today, Mr. Wilson. All right, the ESC information, discipline policies 101, and of course the tips for the IEP and 504. And these are things that we've covered over the past couple of weeks as well. Right now, thank you so much. Let's talk about our upcoming workshop. It is going to be about ELL resources. It is next Wednesday on the 17th at 6:30 p.m. And of course, the link is there for us to register for this next conference. We thank you all so much for your time. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, April, regarding us, outside of our contact information, of course? Is there anything else that you wanted to add regarding the workshop this evening?
Nope, everything was covered so eloquently, and we thank you, Mr. Wilson, for coming.
Yes, we so appreciate it. So we will be joining you all next week. Again, you can reach out to us at the Sunshine Education Coalition, where our mission, our goal is always about empowering our youth, making sure that we are caring for our youth, especially our youth of color. We care for all children, but we definitely want to stop the school to prison pipeline. We definitely want that to end, and together we can work to make it happen. Please visit us at Sunshine Education Coalition. .org, as well as you can send us an email at the Sunshine Education Coalition at gmail.com. And again, we thank you for your time and joining us this evening.